Blood stained the street outside of a hospital in Nice, France on a spring morning in 2014. Monaco's richest woman lay dying beside her faithful chauffeur, victims of a brazen assassination that would expose a web of betrayal at the heart of the principality's elite. This is Monsters. Stone by stone, Monaco's mightiest real estate empire rose from the calloused hands of a humble Italian craftsman. Jean-Baptiste Pastor arrived from Liguria's sun-bleached coast in 1880, carrying nothing but masonry tools and determination. His modest beginnings would spawn a dynasty that reshaped the contours of the world's second smallest nation. He started his own company, J.B. Pastor and Fills, in 1920, and it went on to become the largest building company in Monaco. Their breakthrough arrived in 1936, a royal commission from Prince Louis II to build Monaco's first football stadium. That prestigious project cemented a bond between the Pastors and the Grimaldi dynasty that would endure for generations. Post-war Monaco presented golden opportunities. Jean-Baptiste had one child, a son named Gildo Pastor. He followed in his father's footsteps and had a shrewd eye. He recognized potential in stretches of waterfront land, acquiring vast parcels at bargain prices. His vision crystallized as Monaco blossomed into a sanctuary for the world's wealthy. The watershed moment struck in 1966 when Prince Rainier authorized Gildo to raise gleaming towers along the coveted coastline. The Pastors' genius lay in their patient strategy. While others sold properties for quick profits, they held their assets, amassing wealth through steady rental income. Their construction empire employed 500 workers that birthed Monaco's landmarks: the Sporting d'Été, Monaco Yacht Club, Louis II Stadium, and countless luxury residences. Gildo inherited the business after his father's death in 1966. He had married Emily Briante on April 27, 1936, and the couple had 3 children together. Victor was born in 1936, Hélène was born in 1937, and Michel was born in 1943. Gildo's death in 1990 divided his empire among the 3 children. While her brothers worked on their own projects, Hélène became known as the head of the second-largest dynasty in Monaco after the royal family. She was known as the Vice Princess. Her portfolio read like a royal decree. Le Bahia and Emily Palace crowned the Lorvado district, while the Trocadero, Continental, Le Schuylkill Apartments, and Gildo Pastor Center in Fontvieille stood as monuments to family wealth. Through her own company, her holdings reached €3.7 billion. 4-bedroom apartments commanded princely rents of over €10,000 monthly as she maintained her father's strategy of building generational wealth through rentals. The Pastor family by then was worth around €25 billion. Hélène had married a bartender named Alfred Rakowski in 1955. Alfred was an average man from a poor background, and Hélène's father didn't approve of the relationship. Still, she was head over heels in love with him and married him anyway. They had a daughter, Sylvia, in 1961, but not long after, Alfred was accused of petty theft and the relationship ended. Hélène lived in London for a few years to escape the press. When she returned to Monaco, she married a dentist named Claude Polanka, and they had a son named Gildo after her father in 1967. That marriage only lasted for 2 years before Hélène divorced Claude and never remarried. Hélène's son Gildo was in the hospital in Nice, France, recovering from a stroke. On May 6, 2014, Hélène visited him in the hospital and received news that he was going to be discharged in a few days. After the visit, Hélène got into the front passenger side of a black minivan being driven by her chauffeur, Mohamed Darouche. As they were pulling onto the road from the hospital, 2 men stepped up to the vehicle and fired a sawed-off shotgun and a rifle into the cab. Both the driver and passenger were hit in the face, neck, and chest. The shooters ran in different directions and allegedly met up at a nearby location where they left the scene in a taxi. Hélène and Mohammed were rushed into the hospital where the chauffeur died on May 11th. Hélène was in a coma until May 16th when she awoke, but she eventually died on May 21st. Both of Hélène's children were questioned, and neither one could think of anybody who would have wanted their mother dead. It was proof of just how well the killer hid their plan. Investigators found the men involved in the attack on local surveillance and were able to view the footage back in time to follow them back to a hotel in Nice. They found that the men had showered in the hotel prior to the shooting. Once their hotel room was located, investigators found DNA and other evidence that allowed them to identify the pair as Samin Saeed Ahmed and Al-Hayir Hamadi. The two confessed that they had been hired to assassinate both Hélène and her chauffeur by a man named Pascal Doriac. Of course, once he was questioned, he admitted that he had been asked to set up the hit by a man named Wojciech Janowski. Wojciech Janowski was born on August 15, 1949 in Warsaw, Poland. Not much is known about his early life, but he attended Cambridge and went on to become a successful businessman, at least for a while. He started running a string of hotels and casinos in Monaco, which is likely where he met Hélène's daughter, Sylvia. By 2014, Wojciech and Sylvia had been living together for 28 years, and though they never legally married, he's commonly referred to as Hélène's son-in-law. Though Wojciech had been successful with multiple businesses during his life, by the time of the murder, his financial situation was quite dire. Hélène gave each of her children a €500,000 monthly stipend, and they each lived in apartments paid for by her. Financial investigations following the murder uncovered a web of deception that had been unfolding for years. Wojciech's carefully crafted image as a successful businessman and philanthropist concealed a troubling reality of financial manipulation and fraud. The paper trail revealed staggering misappropriations of funds. During the 16 months preceding the murder, Wojciech spent €7.5 million out of the $9 million that Sylvia received from her mother. Wojciech's method was calculated. He channeled blank checks that Sylvia wrote to him through Dubai, creating the illusion that his businesses were flourishing. Meanwhile, prosecutors found themselves unable to locate those millions. One prosecutor stated, quote, "He had no idea where that money had gone, but it was not in Janowski's bank account." Indeed, while millions flowed through his hands, investigators discovered only €900,000 in his Monaco bank account at the time of his arrest. Beneath his veneer of success, Wojciech faced mounting financial troubles. His businesses were reportedly on the verge of collapse. Then the situation worsened dramatically when Sylvia was diagnosed with cancer in 2012. That diagnosis created a perfect storm of pressures as Wojciech realized he was facing potential financial ruin. The €500,000 monthly stipend that Hélène provided to her daughter would have ceased if Sylvia had died. Hence, Wojciech found himself trapped, dependent on the Pastor family money, yet increasingly desperate as his financial house of cards began to collapse. Authorities ultimately traced significant financial transactions in Wojciech's accounts in the months before the murders. Among them was a suspicious withdrawal of €250,000 from an offshore account in Dubai. Further investigation exposed numerous extravagant purchases, including a yacht and a vintage Fiat bought with Sylvia's money. Moreover, investigators uncovered multiple instances of deception beyond simple spending. Reports revealed that money Sylvia had given Wojciech to buy a London apartment for their daughter had instead been used to purchase a property for himself, which he subsequently mortgaged. Likewise, when Sylvia requested a yacht in 2012, he presented her with a fake bill, artificially inflating the cost by €1 million. Wojciech must have believed that killing Hélène would lead to Sylvia inheriting a large chunk of money, which would solve his money problems. He turned to Pascal Duriac, his trusted personal trainer of 10 years, offering €140,000 to orchestrate Hélène's death. Wojciech painted Hélène as a monster, which the fitness trainer believed. Pascal enlisted his brother-in-law to find willing killers. That's where Samin Saeed Ahmed and Al-Hayir Hamadi were recruited from Marseille's rough northern quarters, but they proved to be quite inept. Security cameras tracked their every move, from purchasing phones to boarding trains to Nice. Their careless habits left DNA on a hotel shower gel bottle. I don't even want to know. Most remarkable, the supposed professional killers arrived at their target by taxi, having failed to secure a getaway scooter. Investigators later said, quote, "Never before have we seen assassins take a taxi to commit murder. They broke every rule in the criminal handbook." Wojciech ordered the death of both Hélène and her loyal driver Mohammed. A €40,000 bonus sweetened the deal, which was payment for eliminating the chauffeur and stealing Helene's handbag to stage it as a robbery. The dual assassination, investigators concluded, served to, quote, "muddle things up and make people question who was the real target." Though Wojciech later denied ordering Mohammed's murder, his initial confession told a different tale. Truth shattered Sylvia's world like broken glass. 28 years of devotion lay in ruins as investigators exposed the true face of the man she had trusted with her heart, her fortune, and countless blank checks. Each revelation cut deeper than the last. Their London home bore a secret mortgage. Car and health insurance premiums vanished into thin air. Even her daughter's dental studies became fodder for fraud. Wojciech had claimed a €500,000 annual cost, double the true amount. 5 weeks of testimony stripped away decades of lies. The courtroom watched as realization dawned in Sylvia's eyes. Her beloved partner was nothing more than a crook and a pathological liar. Her September 21st testimony echoed with raw anguish. She said, quote, "I've lost Mum, I've lost Wojciech, I have nothing left." Wojciech's lawyer argued in court that he was acting to protect Sylvia from her abusive mother. That reason was disputed during Sylvia's testimony. At the end of the trial, Wojciech's lawyer read a confession that his client had written. Wojciech Janowski was sentenced to life in prison, along with both Samin Saeed Ahmed and Al-Hayir Hamadi. Pascal Duriak was sentenced to 30 years in prison. To make matters worse, I couldn't find any information that Sylvia had died, so it seemed like she fought her cancer and is still alive, meaning Wojciech could have continued living off of his partner's stipend without ending anybody's lives. But I guess senseless murder based on greed is what makes a monster a monster. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave us a comment. You can check out our other show, Somewhere Sinister, on YouTube or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.